Welcome back to another biology BGCSE past paper review. Today we're reviewing a paper 1 from the year 2015. Now please remember, before you start the examination, always write your school number, your candidate number, your surname, and your initials. Also, please remember to read through the instructions carefully before you start the examination. And if you have any queries or if you have any doubt, please clarify those with your examiner before you actually begin. Now let's jump into the first question. And the first question reads that the diagram shows part of a pigeon pea plant. Which part of a plant is formed from the ovary after pollination? Now, even before I get into that, I just want to mention that peas, generally, peanuts and so on, they are from a group of plants called legumes. And legumes, they have what they call root nodules that contain nitrogen-fixing bacteria that will convert nitrogen into nitrates. All right, but let's get into the answer right here. What forms from the ovary is the fruit, and so A will be our correct answer. Also, just to point out that the ovules, they will form the seeds of the plant as well. All right, so within the fruit, you'll have seeds. All right, and those were formed from the ovules. All right, so a matter of fact, if you notice here, we call these, and the peas, we call them pods, and the pods is really from the ovary, and the pods will contain the seeds that form from the ovules. All right, so let's now get into question number 2. And for question number 2, we show here a flower. And what we can do, let's quickly label this. And we have A, which is petals. So this will be our petal right there. B will be our anther, and that is a part of the male part of the flower. And then C is filament. So the filament and the anther make up the male part of the flower, but it's called stamen. And here we have our sepal. All right, D is our sepal. Now the question reads that the diagram shows a cross section of a flower, which structure protects the flower in its bud, and that is the sepal. All right, the anther contain the male gametes, which are called pollen grains, and the pollen grains, they contain sperm cells. As a matter of fact, each pollen contains 2 sperm cells. All right, just to mention that right there. For question number 3, it said, which organism is the most abundant in a terrestrial food chain? And terrestrial means on land. And so the producer is the most abundant. All right, and also please note that you need to learn the pyramids of number and also the pyramids of energy as well. And you can look for that on my channel. All right, let's go to question number 4. Question number 4 is a yeast is a unicellular organism, which means it has one cell. It said, to which group does the unicellular organism yeast belong? And yeast is a fungi. Okay, so yeast is a fungi. Now, protists, just to kind of point out protists, you have some organisms that belong to protists, just to mention a few. And the protists will include algae. Protists will also include the amoeba, and these are just some common ones that you should know. So the amoeba, algae, and we also have euglena. So just in case you may see this on the examination, you know exactly what to write. And also we have the paramecium. All right, so those are some common organisms that belong to the protist group. All right, so let's go to question number 5. It said, which pollutant can cause eutrophication if dumped in an open body of water? And eutrophication is caused by dissolved nutrients in water. And here it will be untreated sewage, because untreated sewage is rich in nutrients. And it will cause excess growth of algae and what we call a phenomenon as algal blooming. Now, question number 6, it said that large areas of polar ice are melting. Which of the following is the most likely cause of this occurrence? And this is caused by global warming. So when the earth becomes very warm, it will cause ice caps to melt. All right. A matter of fact, deforestation could cause it as well, because deforestation will cause a buildup of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but directly it is global warming, because deforestation can lead to global warming. All right. So just to mention that. All right. So global warming is our answer. Question number 7. And in question number 7 here, it said that a food chain, let me go down to the other option as well in the question. Okay, so that's all of it. All right, it said now a food chain is shown in the diagram below. The numbers indicate the number of individuals of each of the organisms in a particular area. We have 2,000 green plants, we have 10 rabbits, we have 1 fox, and we have 49 fleas. As the arrow indicates, is what is eating what, or the transfer of energy. So energy transfer from the green plant to the rabbit, and then from the rabbits into the fox, and then from the fox into the fleas. You see approximately what percentage of organism in this food chain is, are carnivores. And so let's do a quick calculation right here. And so the carnivores will include the organisms that are feeding on meat. And so here we have the fox and the fleas being the carnivores in this food chain. All right, so to find this now, we need to know what is our total number of organisms. And so 2,000 plus 10 plus 1 plus 49, that gives us 2,060. So our total here is 2,060. All right, let's just write it down. All right, and so if we want the percentage of carnivores, we need to find our total carnivores, and our total carnivores here will be 50, which is the fox and the fleas, so that will be 50. So to get our percentage, it will be 50 over 2,060. And then you multiply all of that now by, let us put this in bracket. All right, so we're going to multiply all of this now by 100 as well, okay? So it will be 50 over 2,060, which is the total, multiplied by 100%, okay? All right, and that will give us our answer. So multiply by 100. And that will equal to 2.43%. All right, and so our answer here will have to be 2%. Okay, so I say round off figure as 2%. All right, so now let's, and matter of fact, I must point out why 2.4 is not there as the answer, and 2, because we're talking about organisms, and so we can't have a 2 point something organism, right? So just run it off to be 2 as the nearest whole number. All right, so let's jump into question number 8. And question number 8, now it reads that the diagram shows a hawk and a baby chick upon which the hawk feeds. And it said which statement is correct. So let's go to the statement. So notice the hawk is eating the chick. And so these are the options now. Say a decrease in the number of chick would not affect the number of hawks, which is not true, because the chick is the food source. So therefore, if you have less chick, then the hawk should be affected. It's a decrease in number of chicks could cause an increase in number of hawks. That is not true, because that's not possible. If you have less food, then it can increase in number. It said an increase in number of hawks could cause a decrease in number of chicks, definitely, because more hawks eating chicks. So this will be your answer here. Let's check B to see, make sure that is not an option. It's an increase in number of hawks could cause an increased number of chicks. Not true at all. All right, so let's go to our next question. All right, so question number 9. It said, which statement best describe overfishing? And here it said that harvesting of invasive species, not true. Harvesting of a popular marine organisms or a marine species, not true. Harvesting of a marine species in too high numbers, yes, that is overfishing. Taking too much at one time is overfishing. So therefore, you take more than what can be reproduced. That's what leads to overfishing. And of course, it will lead to endangerment of the species or threatening of the species, then endangerment, then maybe extinction. All right, so number 10 here said what gas is primarily responsible for global warming. And right off the bat here, it is going to be carbon dioxide. All right, so carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that leads to global warming. Nitrogen dioxide and sulfur dioxide, those will lead to acid rain. All right, let's go to question number 11. It said the diagrams show 4 specialized cells, which diagram shows a plant cell. And the first diagram here, let's make note of this. This is a motor neuron. So this is a motor neuron. And the second one here, it's kind of circular. So I know most times it will distract persons to say, okay, they can't figure out what cell it is. But it is a plant cell. And this could be like a guard cell, okay? It could also be representing also a spongy mesophyll cell, because spongy mesophyll cells, they are kind of a roundish type of cells, or they are more circular. All right, so it's a guard cell or a spongy mesophyll cell. And you notice the black regions, those will represent the chloroplast, and the large central vacuole will be there. And so cell C is a ciliated cell. And ciliated cells are found within the trachea and in the bronchi and so on. All right, so those contain cilia. And cell D, it is a phagocyte. All right, so that's a phagocyte, it's a white blood cell. All right, so our option here is B. For this, a plant cell is B. I know it's not the typical shape for general plant cells, but yes, it's a plant cell. All right, so let's go into question number 12. For question number 12, we say the diagram shows apparatus that was set up to demonstrate a biological process. And we have level of liquid in the tissue funnel. We have concentration of concentrated sucrose solution. And this is a key information here. This is concentrated sucrose solution. Here we have dilute sucrose solution in the beaker, and we have a membrane. So right off the bat, once the membrane is there, you know for sure that water will be leaving from the beaker into the tissue funnel. All right, because water moves from a dilute solution into a concentrated solution. So in other words, it moves from a higher water potential to a lower water potential. All right, so H2 is going in, just to make a note of that. All right, and it said after 30 minutes, the level of the tissue funnel had risen. So what is the correct explanation for this? And again, because simple water is moving from the dilute solution into the concentrated solution. All right, so let's go to our option now and see what is correct. So what is the most likely reason for this? What's the explanation? The sugar move from the funnel into the beaker, which is not correct because sugar is not moving by osmosis. And of course, since the membrane is there, water move across the membrane, it is osmosis. Sugar and water moved, not correct. Water moved from the funnel into the beaker, not true. But instead, water moved from the beaker into the funnel. That's why the funnel level increased. All right, let's go to our next question. Question number 13. It said diagram represent 3 simple food molecules. All right, so we have 3 simple food molecules right here. And just to make a quick note that this is glucose, and glucose is a monosaccharide. I could just type that in real quick. So glucose is a monosaccharide, a simple sugar, and it is C6H12O6. So this is a monosaccharide. All right, and amino acid is a monomer for protein. So let's put that right there. It is a monomer for protein or monomer of protein. Fatty acid is not a monomer. It is a simple unit of lipids or fat, but it's not a monomer because fats are not polymers, okay? All right, so here now, as I say that these are monosaccharide and amino acid, they are monomers of they're complex compounds. So these two, we can classify these two as monomer. And monomer, we say they are simple units that make up more complex unit. All right, so let's just call these monomers. So they are both monomers. All right, so they are monomers. Now, so which nutrient is represented by the diagram below? In the diagram below here, we have two sugar units, which is two glucose units, all right? And so if you have two glucose together, then we know it's going to form now a disaccharide, because monosaccharide is a single unit, and so two monosaccharide will form a disaccharide. A matter of fact, let us quickly point out a few things right here, because guess what? If this is two glucose together, then what is formed here is maltose, okay? So this will be a maltose molecule. All right, so maltose, and maltose is a combination of, let's write it down real quick. So maltose is a combination of glucose and glucose, so just make sure you know that. Glucose plus glucose give you maltose. Let's give you two other disaccharides that you should know. You should also know lactose, and lactose is a combination of glucose, okay? The combination of glucose, right? Glucose and galactose. All right, and all of these, they are monosaccharides, okay? So glucose is a monosaccharide, galactose is a monosaccharide, and also the next one you need to know is also sucrose, which is very common on the exam. So this will be glucose, and here fructose. So again, you need to know all of these combination here for the disaccharide, all right? So notice that all the disaccharides, they contain glucose, and so maltose is glucose and glucose, lactose is glucose and galactose, and sucrose is glucose and fructose. All right, so let's jump into our next question. And our next question here is question number 14. It says, which part of the cell controls all the activities? And by now we need not to discuss this one, because we know right off the bat, this is our nucleus. Cell membrane controls what go in and out of the cell. The nucleolus is in the nucleus, and that's where you'll find our ribosomes making and so on. All right, vacuole is what is a storage compartment of the cell. It stores water, waste, and also nutrients. Number 15. Number 15 is, what is the name given to a group of cells carrying out the same function? So when a group of cells come together to carry the same function, we call that tissue. But I need to remember the development of organism. We start from cell, then tissue, then organs, and then we go into the organism. All right, so remember the order of how organisms are formed. All right, question number 16. Is which of the following is not an example of osmosis? Not an example of osmosis. So I say water enters blood capillaries from surrounding body cells. That is an example of osmosis, movement of water across membranes, definitely. B, it said water enters guard cells in the leaf from surrounding cells. That is also osmosis. Water moves from the soil into the root hair cells. That is also osmosis. But water vapor moves out of the leaf through the stomata. That is not osmosis. That is diffusion. And water is evaporating. So that's the evaporation process. It's a diffusion process. And it is what we call transpiration. All right, so transpiration is by evaporation / diffusion. All right, so let's go to question number 17. And question number 17, let me just go back to question number 16 one bit to explain something here, why diffusion occurs. Do you remember that in high humidity, if humidity is high, then we have less transpiration because the outer atmosphere will contain a lot of water already. So less water can be diffused into the atmosphere at that point, okay? But low humidity, which means less water in the environment, then you have more transpiration, all right? So water will move from where there's more water molecules to where there's less water molecules. All right, so let's go back to question number 17. Question number 17 is what units would be formed from the hydrolysis of protein molecules. And when we talk about hydrolysis, what you're talking about is the breaking down by water. So let's make a note of that. So hydrolysis means to break down by the use of water. So breaking down by water. All right. And so hydro means water and lysis means to break. So it's breaking down by water. All right. So let's say breaking down by water. And so typically what we have here is complex substances such as polymers. They can break down by the use of water. So the fact of the matter is now, we're talking about protein molecules being broken down by water molecules. In fact, once you see hydrolysis and it refers to the body, think about digestion of the substance. So when you digest or break down proteins, what do you get? You'll get amino acids. Okay, so you get amino acids. All right, so fats could not be the answer because again, fat would have to break down into fatty acids and glycerol. First, you break down the fatty droplets, as you should know. Glucose will come from our carbohydrates. All right, and nucleic acids are found within the nucleus of our cells. And there are two nucleic acids that you should know. You should know DNA, which is deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, which is deoxyribonucleic acid, and you should also know RNA, which is ribonucleic acid. Okay, so those are two nucleic acids found in the nucleus of our cells, and they will control the formation of proteins, and also DNA will carry genetic information. All right. Question number 18. It says 3 strips of potato tissues, each 5 centimeters long, were placed in different concentrations of salt solutions. All right, and so after 24 hours, they were removed from the solutions, dried, and measured. The results are shown below. All right, so quickly, if you start at 5 centimeters, then first you need to note that the 0% salt solution, we have an increase in length. And please don't say that potato strips grow, all right? Because they're not growing, they're actually expanding. So please take that concept out of your head that growing of the strips. No, they're not growing, they're increasing in length or they expand. And so why they expand is because of a solution we call hypotonic solution. So hypotonic, so let's just put that there. Hypotonic solution will cause an increase in length. Now, if the length remains the same, as in 5, because it started at 5 and it remains the same, so this one will be isotonic. Okay, so isotonic solution. And now a decrease in length here is because of a hypertonic solution. So these are different type of solutions that you need to know. Hypertonic will be dilute solution compared to what is in the cell, and hypertonic will be a concentrated solution more than what is in the cell, and isotonic is the same concentration to what is inside the cell. All right, so here now it asks now what is the percentage change of the strip in the zero salt solution. So if zero salt solution, there's an increase in 0.5. So the difference between the original and this length is 0.5. So what we're going to do is the difference. So we're going to say, let's just write it down quickly. So it will be 5.5 minus 5, and that will equal to 0.5. Okay, so that's 0.5 is our difference. And so to find our percentage change, it will be the difference, which is 0.5, divided by the original, which is 5. And then we're going to multiply all of this by 100% as well. So let's multiply this by 100%. So it's a change over the original, multiply by 100%, and that will equal to 10%. Okay. All right, so this gives us 10%. All right, so let's see, that should be there. 10%. Yes, and D is our option right here. All right, so let's go to the next question. And so our next question right here now, question 19. It's a diagram shows the lock and key model of how an enzyme assisted reaction takes place. And just to point out right here is that yes, enzymes are, it's a what property of an enzyme does this explain? And yes, enzymes are truly proteins. And because they are proteins, they have specific shape. Okay. But very important here now, I'm looking at D, and D will be an option. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to choose D as an option, but there's something missing from D. I'm going to write that in. So enzymes are specific in terms of their action. They're specific in terms of what substance they will act upon. And so enzymes are what they call substrate specific. So they're very specific. And they're specific because they have specific shape. So we're going to say right here that enzymes are substrate specific. Just to make a correction there, right? They are substrate specific. All right. And so, yes, they are proteins. And because they are proteins, they have specific shape. And because they have specific shape, they only act on a specific or a specified type of substrate. A matter of fact, when the enzyme and substrate come together, it's called a enzyme substrate complex. All right. And this shape right here, the induced shape, is where we call the active site. So the active site is where the shape will be. Let us put a little highlight right here. This here is the active site. And again, when enzymes and substrate join together, it's called enzyme substrate complex. All right, so let's go into our next question, question number 20. All right, for question number 20, it said the table gives information on the chemical test for food nutrients. And it said which row correctly shows the nutrients, the reagent, and the color observed for a positive test result. And so fat is not tested using Biret. Biret is used to test for proteins. And yes, fat will become white if you'd use the alcohol. So alcohol should be here, or ethanol should be here for fat. For protein, it is the Biret. And the color you should get for positive for protein tests should be purple, or in some cases you see violet. Now for starch, iodine is used definitely, and it turns to blue-black. So yes, that will be your answer right there. Sugar is used, yes, Benedict is used to test for sugar, but the color you should get here is brick red, orange, all right? And you may also get red, or in yellow as well, could also be a correct color. And it's very low percentage sugar, then get green, okay? But you look for orange, yellow, or red. Now for question number 21, it says which explanation best explains why a green plant gives off oxygen and takes in carbon dioxide during the daytime. So when light is present, a lot of light is present, then what is going to happen here? The plant will photosynthesize, and it will photosynthesize more than how it is respiring. So definitely oxygen will be given off because the plant will make oxygen, but it only uses a small amount of that oxygen, or a small percentage of that oxygen, for respiration. So the excess oxygen will be given off during the daytime because a lot of photosynthesis is going on. For question number 22, here it said that which graph shows how the rate of photosynthesis varies with the difference of the light source from the plant. So if you move the plant away, or move the light away from the plant, then what should happen here is that the photosynthesis should decrease. And so the best graph here that shows a decreasing rate of photosynthesis as you increase in the distance of light or away from the light, then D will be your option. Okay? So further away from light is a less photosynthesis. So as an increase in distance away from the light, then we have a decrease in the rate of photosynthesis. All right, so just to make a mention right here again that light is needed in photosynthesis to split water molecules, and then the hydrogen ions that are formed from the water molecules are used to combine with carbon dioxide to form our glucose. Question number 23, let's go back to that, the one up a little bit. What is the function of the xylem vessel? And xylem vessel transport water and mineral salts. So right off the bat here, we know that it is option C. Okay, so transport mineral salts and water. And the mineral salts will dissolve in the water. All right, so for question number 24, it said the diagram shows the arrangement of the cells inside a leaf of a green plant. And let's just quickly with this, so at least we know these structures. Here we have our waxy cuticle. So this is waxy cuticle X on the top, and that helps to protect the leaf from sunlight. In fact, it helps to reflect sunlight because waxy cuticle will have a little sheen to it. W will be called the palisade mesophyll cell. So this will be our palisade mesophyll cell. All right, so it's palisade mesophyll cell. And just to make a note right here, if you're in exam and they ask you to label this, actually what W is pointing to is the vacuole of the cell. So it's the vacuole of the palisade mesophyll cell, but generally can just say these cells are the palisade mesophyll cells. The V, it is the spongy mesophyll cell. All right, and please know the difference between cell and layer. So you have palisade mesophyll layer and you have spongy mesophyll layer as well. So please make sure you know the difference between the cell and the layer. Okay, because sometimes we tend to mix those up. All right, so spongy mesophyll cell. All right, Y is a phloem, and I just want to make why I'm saying this is a phloem. I want to kind of explain this because there's something I need to explain right here. On top right here, we have the xylem, and I want to make a note that together, xylem and phloem makes up what they call a vascular bundle, and they're the transporting tissues within the plant. The xylem is on top in the leaf, and it makes perfect sense because the xylem will be closer to the palisade mesophyll cells, because the palisade mesophyll cells, they are the one that contains the most chloroplast, and which in turn will carry the most photosynthesis. In fact, the xylem is on top, closer to the top of the leaf as well, to ensure that the leaf remains cool, and also to bring about transpiration, which will aid in the continuous flow of water through the plant. All right, Z is a guard cell. All right, and guard cells, they are responsible to control the opening and closing of the stomata, which will in turn controls the rate of transpiration and also the exchange of gases. All right, so the question asks which cell contains chloroplast. And so chloroplast can be found in our palisade mesophyll cells. They can also be found in the spongy mesophyll cells, so W, V, and guard cells will also have chloroplast. Remember that question, I think was question, I don't remember what question was it, but an earlier question when I showed the plant cell, a circle plant cell, yeah, it could be a guard cell as well, and they contain chloroplast, okay? All right, so we're going to look for W, V, and Z. So any option with W, V, and Z will be your option right here. And so, yeah, W, this is B. Okay, V, W, and Z. All right, regardless of the order. All right, so let's jump into our next question, and we are halfway through. So you see the diagram shows the surface view of an open stomata. And remember that stomata controls the rate of transpiration. All right, so if they're closed, they decrease transpiration, and when they're open, they will increase transpiration. Also, it is for the exchange of gases as well. And it said which condition allows the stomata to be open. And so guard cell, if they are flaccid, the stomata will close. And so high light intensity will cause them to open. Okay, low light will cause them to close as well. And low osmotic pressure, which is same thing as being flaccid, will cause them to close. Because in high light, plant will need to photosynthesize more, so they'll be open to take in more carbon dioxide. All right, and also allow more movement of water by transpiration through the plant. So make sure that water is available for the cells to photosynthesize. Then question number 26 is a diagrams show how a seedling changes in appearance a few hours after planting. And just to make note right here, if you notice what happened here, so the seedling after planting, what is happening here? if you notice the leaves, they are pretty much drop. And this process is called wilting. So the plant wilt, if you notice it. All right, so the leaf becomes softer and they drop a little bit. So this process is called wilting of the plant. And wilting is a result of the loss of water, all right, in the plant. Particularly, the plant is losing more water than what it can take up. So that is definitely wilting. All right, it said, which conditions are most likely to result in this change? So from where the plant is turgid to where it becomes flaccid and wilt. Then, in other words, what you're looking for are the things or the conditions that will cause plant to lose more water. And so here again, remember, talk about humidity. If you have low humidity, then we have high transpiration. If we have high light, then the stomata will be open and you lose more water. And then also high temperature, which is increasing evaporation of water. So C will be our option right there. All right. So let's look at question number 27. And the question number 27 is a potted plant was watered and the pot was enclosed in a plastic bag. It said the plastic bag was tied securely around the base of them. The plant was weighed at 9 a.m. and again at 4 p.m. During this time, it lost 32 grams in mass. All right, so it said no. If you lose 32 grams in mass, it said from these results, what was the plant rate of transpiration? So first, you have to think about the timing. So from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., that will be 7 hours. So we have 7 hours and we have 32 grams of mass was lost during that time. So the rate of transpiration here will be 32 divided by 7. And 32 divided by 7 will equal to 4.6 grams per hours. All right, so that will be our answer right there. So the plant will lose 4.6 grams of mass every hour. All right, so 27 will be B. All right, so let's jump into our next question. And this is question number 28. It says, which structure contains oxygenated blood? All right, and so just to make a note right here, I'm seeing pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. Now, generally, arteries will carry oxygenated blood, with the exception of the pulmonary artery, is opposite. And veins generally carry deoxygenated blood, with the exception of the pulmonary vein. So here we know that right off the bat, our pulmonary vein will be our answer, okay? And I would just want to make a note right here with the right atrium and right ventricle. The right side of the heart will carry deoxygenated blood, and the left side of the heart will carry oxygenated blood. So definitely these will be the incorrect answers, all right? So 29 is that which substance produced by lymphocytes are used to fight bacterial cells. And so we have antigens, we have antibodies, we have antidotes, we have antitoxins. And so antibodies are produced by the lymphocytes. And so antibodies will be our correct answer. All right, but let's just point out what are antigens. And just quickly define this. Antigens, they are substances or organisms. So any substances or organism, the substances or organisms. When I say organisms, I'm refer to especially microorganisms, or which we call pathogens, that can cause an immune response. Or the production of enzymes or antibodies, I should say. So it's caused an immune response or the production of antibodies or the production of antibodies. So anything that causes antibodies to be produced in the body, they are called antigens, all right? And so antibodies, now we know that antibodies, they're produced by white blood cells, and they are proteins, as a matter of fact. So they are proteins that attack invading substances. So they are specific proteins, And these are proteins that are produced by the lymphocytes or white blood cells, proteins that attack invading, let's say, substances or organisms. All right. All right. And again, these are produced by the lymphocytes. Now, antidotes, now, they are any substance, all right, that use or substances that are used to reverse, let me say reverse the effect. So they used to reverse the effect of toxin. Okay. So they reverse the effect of toxins or poisons. Toxins are poisons. And antitoxin now, which is similar to antidotes, but the difference here, they are generally formed in the body. So these are formed in the body, and they neutralized that form the body. Let's say form in the body that neutralize toxins. Okay, so they are actually formed in the body that neutralize toxins. All right, so that's the difference between antidotes. Antidotes don't necessarily form in the body. We use them to reverse the effect of toxins. And antitoxins now, they are formed in the body that will neutralize or reverse the effect of toxins. All right, so that's to point out those. Now, 30, it said, which blood vessel have thin permeable cell walls? And by now, we don't need to discuss that because thin walls, capillaries will have the thin walls, and they are permeable because they allow substances to pass in and out of them. And also, if you look at the lymphatic system, you will notice that capillaries will exchange substances between the blood and the cells of the body. All right, so question 31. It said the diagram shows section through two types of blood vessels. And so if you look at the vessels carefully, you'll see the big difference between them is that diagram A, it is thinner than diagram 2. And so we know that this is a vein. Not only because it is thinner, but if you notice the lumen, okay, the lumen is also important. So let's call that vein. This is known as artery. Let's put this right here. All right, so vein and artery. And the lumen, so the section through which the blood will flow, or the diameter of the tubal part of the vessel is called a lumen. So right here is the lumen. Okay, and let's type that in. So the lumen of the vein is wider compared to that of the artery. Okay, so lumen. All right, let's put that in. So lumen is the cross section area of the tubal part or the opening of the vessel. Okay, so arteries of narrow lumen, veins of wider lumen, and it said which row correctly match the vessel with their characteristics. So let's look at the characteristic that they are talking about here. And it said in 1, which is vein, valves are normally present, which is true. Blood pressure normally under high pressure, which is not true for 1, but lower pressure in veins. So B, it said that valves are normally present in veins, correct, and blood are normally high pressure for the arteries, which is correct. So B will be our option right here. All right, so let's jump to the next question real quick. We just want to run through this real quick. All right, so 32, it said, which is the correct sequence for the behavior of oxygen during gaseous exchange in the lungs? And so what will happen here in gaseous exchange? Okay, so all options have diffused into the capillaries. So once you go into the capillaries, what will happen next? It will diffuse in the red blood cells. So either D or C, correct? And it says combines with hemoglobin. Yeah, so C will be your answer right there. So oxygen will go into the capillaries and combine with hemoglobin. All right, so 33. It said the following apparatus was used to demonstrate the process of respiration. It said in germinating seeds, it said the lime water in S, so right here, lime water in S, turned milky, but the lime water in Q did not, so it remained the same pretty much. Now, here we have soda lime. I'm going to point out a few things right here. So in this direction, this way it will flow, so let's point out that. So the flow will be in this direction. Okay. So this is where the flow will be. So based on that, and then what to make a note here again, that soda lime removes carbon dioxide or absorb carbon dioxide. Um, so soda lime absorbs carbon dioxide. The soda lime absorbs carbon dioxide. So in other words, it will remove carbon dioxide from the air that going in. So air goes in here, and then this will go to an aspirator, which means going to suck the air out of the jar eventually. All right, so it's a which statement correctly helps to explain this. And so if lime water going to turn milky, carbon dioxide is what turn lime water milky, just to make a note of that, or turn it white, okay? So that means carbon dioxide is going in. So we could make a little notation right here. So right here, for this to turn milky, that means carbon dioxide is coming in the lime water from this tube. So carbon dioxide is coming in. So CO2 is going in. That's the only way it can turn milky. Okay. Now let's go to the explanations now. And so just to make a note, if the seeds are germinating, just to mention that here that germinating seeds do not photosynthesis. They do not photosynthesize. Rather, they will respire to produce energy for the different functions and processes. All right, so let's go to the explanation right here. Again, germination is not carrying any seed that germinating, they did not photosynthesize, they actually respire. So no light is needed and no carbon dioxide is needed. Instead, oxygen is needed, okay? All right, so it said there was no carbon dioxide in the air entering P, but there was carbon dioxide in the air entering P. So P here contains carbon dioxide, but what happened? The soda lime absorbed it. All right. And it said, but there was in. So carbon dioxide was in that leaving S, which is not true. All right, so photosynthesis at R absorb all the carbon dioxide, which is not true because there's no photosynthesis taking place. That's not true. But C said that respiration at R, which is and remember that R is this jar right here, which is the germinating seeds. So respiration at R produced carbon dioxide, which was absorbed by the soda lime, which is not true because the gas is not going the opposite way, going towards S. Remember what the diagram is. Here now it's a respiration at R, which is in the seeds, produce carbon dioxide, which is absorbed by the lime water. Correct. So this one is the one that making sense. All right. So D is the option there. All right. Let's go to the next question. It said the table shows the response of various organs to adrenaline. So adrenaline is the hormone that will prepare you for a reflex action. All right. So it is the flight and fright hormone that we refer to it as. And I said, which row correctly show the response of a target organ to adrenaline and the advantage of this response? All right, so here now we see the target. The target is the arteriole of the skin and it's dilate, and less blood going to the skin means more is available for the muscles. All right, and that's not true. If it's dilating, then of course you're going to have more blood, not less, okay? All right, so heart beats fast, which is true, but send more oxygen, but less oxygen. It send more glucose, but less oxygen to the muscles is not true. Both of them are supposed to be more. So the word less here makes this wrong. All right, but this is true that the heart beats faster and it sends more glucose and more oxygen to the muscle to make more energy, so you respond faster. The liver conversion of glycogen to glucose, that is also true. More glucose available in the blood for energy. Yes, this sounds really good. All right. And let's say D, so muscle become relaxed, ready for immediate action. It's supposed to be contract, ready for immediate action. So the muscles contract, it's ready to give out an action. All right, let's quickly jump to the next question. All right, so 35 is which of the following statement about respiration is correct? So which is correct for respiration? It said that atmospheric oxygen is delivered to the cells to release energy. That one sounds good so far. Let's just double check the others. Carbon dioxide is changed into carbohydrates. No, that's not correct at all. C is said that there is an increase in lactic acid in the tissue due to the presence of oxygen. No. A matter of fact, more oxygen means that no lactic acid will form. Less oxygen means that you start to respire anaerobically and produce lactic acid. So it shouldn't be the presence of oxygen, but actually the absence of oxygen. D is the concentration of carbon dioxide outside the body is greater than that of concentration inside. This is not true. So A is the only option that makes sense. 36. For 36, it said blood constitute approximately 7% of the body weight. All right. It said the beaker shows the relative amount of different body fluids of as a percentage of body weight. And so which percentage represent blood plasma? All right. So again, these are presenting the body weight as mentioned, right? So how to work this out? Based on the question here, it said that here it said that blood constitutes 7% of body weight, right? So just make you remember that. So blood constitutes 7% of body weight. And so what we're going to work out here, we want to find out which of these actually represent blood plasma based on our body weight. The first thing to mention is that plasma is 55% of blood, okay? So if we have 7% of blood in the body, and then here we have 55% of the blood itself is plasma. So what we need to find is 55% of 7, okay? So let's quickly write that down. So what we can have here is 55 divided by 100. So we can say 55% divided by 100. Okay, let's just put that in bracket. And then we're going to multiply that by 7 to find out how much of the 7 is actually plasma. So multiply this by 7. Okay, so multiply this by 7%. And what we get here, we should get, this should equal approximately 3.85. Okay, so 3.85. And 3.85, the closest value there will be 4. So this will be 4% based on the content of the beaker. Okay, so 4% will be your answer. That's a rounded value. All right, so here now it said which of the following set of conditions is likely to have the greatest effect on the reducing body temperature. So which of these will cause body temperature to reduce much faster? It said not sweating, which is not true. If you're going to sweat, sweating helps to cool the body. And vasodilation also helps to cool the body. It releases heat from the body. So sweating and vasodilation, not constriction. Constriction retains heat. Okay, so C will be your option right there. All right. So 38, it said which hormone promotes growth in plants? And by now we all remember this. This is auxin. All right, so no need to even talk about that. We talk about adrenaline in the earlier question. Glucagon converts glycogen back into glucose. Insulin converts glucose into glycogen. So glucagon and insulin work in a negative feedback system to control glucose level. All right, so 39. It said the structure below are part of a kidney nephron. All right, and so you have the Bozeman capsule, you have collecting duct, distal convoluted tube, proximal convoluted tube, ascending loop of Henle, and then we have descending loop of Henle. So here it asks us to say which is the correct sequence of structure through which the filtrate in the nephron must pass. So the filtrate is what is coming from the glomerulus by ultrafiltration. And so first it will go into, let's kind of really number these. First, it will go into the Bozeman capsule first. So number 1 should be first, and let's just see what's happening here. A motherfucker, yeah, all of them are showing number 1 first. Okay, so that is cool. So you move from the glomerulus into the Bozeman capsule. So the Bozeman capsule should be number 1. Then it will move from there into the proximal convoluted tube. So proximal convoluted tube, which means the one is closer to the Bozeman capsule. Then after that, it will go into the descending loop of Henle. That means descending going down towards it. So this will be number 3. And then after they go into the ascending loop of Henle, which is number 4. And then after that, it will go into the distal. So this should be number 5. And then the collecting duct is the last thing. Then it goes through the ureter. All right, so we're going to look for this option here. according to these. So the Boseman capsule first, and then number 4 next. So 1, 4, and then 5. 1, 4, and 5. No, 1, 4, and 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So we're going to look for number 1, number 4, number 6, and then number 5. And then after number 5, we're going to go into number 3 and then number 2. All right, in that order. So let's see which of them will be this correct answer here. And all of this, based on what we have here, B will be our order. Okay, excellent. So B is our answer there for number 39. All right, let's go to number 40, and we have 10 more questions to run through real quick. Yes, so which statement about the nervous system is correct? And the nervous system, it transmits electrical impulses directly to target organs. That is right off the bat correct. All right, because it transmits electrical impulses to the target organ, not chemical, because chemical deals with the endocrine system, which are hormones. All right. All right, so yep. And it does not transmit electrical impulses or impulse through the blood, not at all. Hormones travel through the blood. All right, and impulses are travel really fast. They're fast processed. All right, so question number 41. So diagram shows a form of tropism in plants. So it shows a form of tropism in plant. So notice the plant is turned upside down, but the shoot is going upwards, right? And so the question now asks is what type of tropism is being demonstrated? And I can see the answer right off the bat right here. There's no light that is here, so the plant that is not responding to light. So there's no phototropism at all. And so if you notice, the shoot is going the opposite direction of gravity, so it is a geotropism. So it's a matter of fact, the shoot is negative geotropic. Okay, shoots are negative geotropic; they go the opposite direction of gravity. Hydrotropism is the response in terms of water. Phototropism is in light, and thigmotropism is in touch. Is for touch. All right. So question number 42, and question number 42 is a diagram shows the structure of a flower, which letter represent the structure which contains the male gametes, and the male gametes are the pollen grains that contain the sperm cells, and pollen grains are produced in the anther. So B will be our option. I remember we labeled flower earlier, so we don't need to go back over this. D is the ovary, and the circular structure is in the ovary. Those are the ovules, just to make a notation of that. C is the sepal, we talk about that. A is a petal that will attract insect if it's an insect pollinating flower. All right, so question number 43 is said, which list show the correct order the path sperm cell travel through the male reproductive system? So we're looking for the pathway that sperm will travel through the male reproductive system. Firstly, to make a note that sperm cells are made in the testes. So the testes will produce sperm cells, and these are produced in the semiferous tubules within side of the testes. All right, so the testes must be the first thing. Then to go into the epididymis for storage. So between B and C will be correct. Then it goes into the vas deferens, then urethra. So definitely C is the option. All right, so let's go quickly to question number 44. And then we have 6 more questions to go, and then we're finished. All right, so in question number 44, the diagram shows the human female reproductive system. All right, and so just to quickly make some notation right here that S is our fallopian tube. All right, R is the ovary. U is the uterus. All right, and actually pointing to the endometrium of the uterus, which is the innermost layer. And T is the vagina. All right, so the question is said here now, which 2 letters indicate where fertilization and implantation take place, respectively. And so fertilization is in the fallopian tube, and that is S. And implantation takes place in the uterus, in the endometrium, which is U. So it should be S and U. So it's going to be C is our answer right there. All right, so next question It said identical twins are formed as a result of which of the following? Identical twins, they are formed from one egg, and what one egg will eventually split into two different eggs. So definitely A is the answer. Fertilized egg split into two. Budding in the uterus, that's not true. External fertilization, not true. Two separate eggs, that's fraternal twin. All right, so let's just jump to our next question. That one is a straight, direct answer. All right, so 46. And 46, which is a characteristic of a zygote. And remember that zygote is a structure that is formed after the egg is being fertilized. And so here it said that it is formed from a union of a male and female gamete. So as a male and a female gamete must come together to form a zygote. Okay? So yes. Develops in the vagina, absolutely not true. It actually forms in the fallopian tube when fertilization takes place. It is less than 1 day old. Once fertilization takes place, immediately is a zygote. All right, and it is not yet fertilized, which is not true. That's just egg or sperms, respectively. All right, so 47. It said, which is not a sexually transmitted disease. And right off the bat, we see scurvy is your answer. And scurvy is the lack of vitamin C. All right, sorry about that thing, but C is your answer. Scurvy is a lack of vitamin C. All right, it's not. All the rest, gonorrhea, HIV, syphilis, they are sexual transmitted diseases, which means you need to protect yourself. A matter of fact, abstain until you are married. All right, so 48. So the graph shows information about infants that are born in a population. And so we have a percentage of birth on the y-axis, and we have the mass in kilograms on the x-axis. So the y is the percentage of birth, and on the x-axis is mass in kilograms. So which is the most common birth weight? And let's go back to the graph with the highest point we're looking for right here. And to the highest point, let's follow this line all the way down. And so this will all go all the way down to, let's see where this is leading to here, which is 6 is the highest percentage, which is 20% based on the population, is the highest birth weight. Oh, 6 is not sure, they show 7, but let's see what 7 is. Oh no, 7 is really low. Okay, so that must be a mistake right there. So this is going to be 6 actually. So the answer is not here. So the most common one, which is highest frequently occurring one, which is 6 kg. Let's say 6 kg. All right, so this is 6 kg. All right, just ignore that. So 6 kg is our answer. All right, so there's the answer for question number, that's what question number 48. So 6 kg is the answer. All right, so let's jump into the next 2 questions. So we have 2 more questions and that's it. All right, so 49, it said the Punnett square represents the allele for tall pea plants, and small t represents the allele for short pea plant. The genotype of one parent is uppercase T, lowercase t, which is heterozygous. So big T is for tall, small t is for short, and big T and small t is heterozygous, which is still going to mean the plant here going to be actually tall. All right, it said what is the genotype of the other parent? So if one is this, which is heterozygous here, what is the other of the other parent? So let's just quickly show you. We're going to work this out. It's going to be really easy because here, let us point it out right here, that here is 2 big T's. And for this to be 2 big T's, then a big T is already here. So up top here must also be a big T. That's the only way you're going to get 2 big T's in this section right here. But on this side here, you have 2 big T's as well. The only you could get 2 big T's here, so it's row by column. If the row is already uppercase T, then here should also have uppercase T. So that means the other parent is 2 uppercase T's. So let's quick look for that. All right, and we have 2 uppercase T's. So D is our option right there. All right, and then now let's go to the next question, which is the last question. And here the diagram shows a cell undergoing a reproductive process. And once you see circular DNA in the central part, you know that this is a bacterial cell. So this is a bacterium. All right, so DNA, circle DNA is in bacteria. All right, so bacteria, so what type of reproduction is shown? Notice that the cell divides into two cells, and this is called binary fission. Fission means to split, binary means two, so split into two, that's binary fission. Bacteria reproduce by binary fission, a matter of fact. Budding is when you see an outgrowth of the organism, like in Hydra, and then it separates into a new organism. Meiosis is producing gametes. All right, regeneration is actually regrowing of a structural part. So definitely binary fission is our answer. All right, so have a great day. Be blessed and do well on the examination. See you soon.